Hello guys, welcome to the new video tutorial on Angular. So in the last video lecture, we guys have understand how we can use the pipes with the different data information and how we can able to create the user defined, that is custom pipe in Angular. Now in this video tutorial, most ever important topic when it comes to the project development at a developer side, that is the forms, and how we guys can able to use the forms in Angular. Well, in this video tutorial, we guys are going to understand what is form, what are the different types of forms in Angular, and how we can implement that forms in Angular in the easiest way. So very basic thing that you have to be understand initially when it comes to the developer, what is form exactly. When it comes to the form give us the way to take the user input in our programming languages. So if in your web application, if you wanted to take some user input, so using the forms and some input files, you guys can able to take that input easily, and the form plays very important role when it comes to the application development. Well, in an application, you have to works with the user data, and to take that data to perform the insert, update or delete query from the databases, you should have to go with the form. And this is why the forms plays very important role when it comes to the development scenario in Angular or any web related programming languages. Well, when it comes to the Angular, we have two different types of forms. The first form named as template driven form. These forms are basics to implement. This is a very basic forms in Angular, and it is easy to start with understanding the concept of forms, and it is completely based on HTML template. The other type of the Angular forms is comes into the reactive forms. Well, when it comes to the reactive forms, we have the forms with the TS controls, that is TypeScript controls. Every single control of a forms is driven or binded with the TypeScript file, and it is easy to validate, and it is based on the template as well as the TypeScript backend. So these two types of form most probably uses when it comes to the Angular. Well, in Angular, 99% of the development uses the reactive form, but you should have to know the template driven form, how we can able to create. So for this, in this video tutorial, we guys are going to check how we can create a template driven form and how we can able to works with these forms right there. So let us start with a fresh application, and we guys are going to check with this template driven form how we can able to create with. So here I got created with a fresh application, you guys can see. So in this application, I have already removed the HTML CSS part, and in the component we have the title available. Well, I'm going to design the form first, and then next things we are going to bind that form on a template driven form to the TypeScript to print all the values right there available in a form after clicking on a button. So let us do with that. So initially I'm going to create a div. So this div is acts as my title, and inside this div let's provide the bootstrap classes. Let us say container fluid. Okay, then I'm going to use bg gradient and bg primary. Here in this case I'm going to say text white and text center along with some padding, and here I'm going to print in h1 or I'm going to print in h2. So I'm going to print here as Angular template driven form, and in the next I'm going to create one more div that belongs to the class of container, and in this class I'm going to write my all the form control. So it is easiest. Let us check with this in the output. So this is how it looks like. So container we have formed here, and we are going to return a form right there. So in this form I'm going to use some bootstrap form controls, and I'm going to write some form right there. So to be used with this, okay, I will prefer the bootstrap 5 websites here to create the form. So I'm going to search for bootstrap 5 forms, and here on a controls we guys are going to add this. So it is better that we can go with this first one type. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm not required the last due. So here I'm going to paste with this. As I'm not required the text area right here, so I'm going to delete this. So this is for attribute I'm going to be remove. I'm not required right now. So first I'm going to take first name. So I'm just changing that to the first name, and this type belong must be the text. This ID right here is not required. The placeholder we guys are going to write. So let us say this placeholder is name, let us say John. Okay, again one more div I'm going to be copy with this. So this is my entire form control, so I'm going to be copy and I'm going to be paste it here. Okay, let us say this is for last name and this is input type text, and let us say last name placeholder is Smith, and one more div I'm going to take it. Let us say this is for email. Okay, this is what for email, so input type is email and my placeholder is john@mail.com. So this is the input types as we guys have designs with. So what I wanted to do right now, I wanted to keep them in a center and I wanted to reduce their height, and to do with that, so I'm going to be works with this inputted data, and to works with this inputted data, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write a CSS to this class MB as the my data. So I'm going to open the CSS, and here it's better we can write the CSS to the container, we can able to have it to the entire file. So I'm going to say container and I'm going to put a margin, let us say from top and bottom I'm going to put it as a auto, and from left and right I'm going to put it as a 50%. Let me see, it could be work or not. Yeah, it's not working. Let us write it on MB5, MB-5. Let me change that the same name. Yeah, MB3. It's not 5, MB3. So this is top and bottom. Okay, top bottom attribute I'm going to write, let us say 10 pixels. And from here, left and right, I'm going to mention 50 pixels. Right, let us increase that. So I'm going to mention 120 pixels now. Again it's getting reduces. Let us increase one more time, let's say 220 pixels, and yeah, this is fine, not a problem. Or if you wanted to reduce, you reduce it as per your own way. So I'm going to make it done to the 300 pixels. Right, so this is the form that we got created along with text and placeholders, and I'm going to write some styles to the label also. So here I'm going to mention label, and for the label I'm going to design the font size as 18 pixels, and I'm going to write the font weight as bold so that it appears on a bold. 18 will be more, so I'm going to set it to the 60. Let me check on it. 16 will be again more, so let's set it to the 13. Yeah, that's fine. So we have first name, last name and email. Now I wanted to write a background color for the container, so let me add it to the container, and for here I'm going to say background color light blue. All right, that's fine. And we guys are going to provide some default padding and margin. So I'm going to say margin is 0 and padding I'm going to write as a 5 pixels. All right, so this is the form we got created. This is an entire form. So you guys can do one thing, instead of adding this all to the container, it's better we can add it to the MB3 so that it can be shown very well. Oh, it's not working fine. Right, so that's not a problem. This is what our form, if you want you can provide that backgrounds and everything right here. Well, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add the buttons. Now to add the buttons here, again same class I'm going to be copy, and here I'm going to add some CSS as I wanted to add 2 buttons. So I'm going to say here display flex, and here that buttons I'm going to add it first. So let me add the button. Okay, type as submit, or you can say the type as button, and first one is the button name is submit, other button name is, let us say, clear. These are the buttons. So I'm going to add them to the by providing the classes. So classes is like button, and this is button primary, and I'm going to assign to the call of 6 so that it appears like this. And the same class I'm going to add it to the second button, and this must be as it's clear, so I'm going to change it. So this is what it is. So now you can provide the gap in between that, so I'm going to say gap as a 2, So this is what the button we got created, and we have the complete entire form with the first name, last name and email from the HTML and bootstrapping. Now the next step that I wanted to do, I have to retrieve that informations in my Angular form, and to do with that, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bind that Angular with my TypeScript file. So to bind that with a TypeScript file, what we guys are going to do next is simply we guys are going to add a form control to our HTML. And to add the form control, it is better to this entire div I'm going to add it. So I'm going to say form here, opening, and I'm going to close this form after this div class container. Right now, the next step, by writing this we cannot able to get the information. Next step, if you are working on a template driven form component, then you should have to import the forms module to your app.module.ts. So let us import that forms module. So I'm going to say import what I wanted to import, forms module, okay, from my Angular forms, and I'm going to import the imports array so that I can access to my entire file. So this is my first module. So now once we imported this, you have to assign the ID of this form to your ng form control. The ng form, okay, ng form, how we can able to write this ng form? First you have to write the ID, and to write that ID as a reference you can use hash here. So I'm going to say my form is the name of my application, and I have to bind it to the ng form. And this ng form, if you not imported that module, so it may be turns into the error. So please be make sure you should have to write that ng form first, forms module to your app.module.ts, and then ng form to your control. Next step is to bind the submit event for your form. So form might have two inputs, input type submit and input type clear, that you have to mention for the buttons, and you have to write that methods here. And once the form is clicked, then that method will appear, and that name of method is ng submit, and you have to write it using round brackets, because we are going to bind this method on a specific name of functions those are there in your form or a TypeScript file. So here I am going to write a method called as onSubmit. This method is not present right now in the TypeScript, that's why it turns into the error. Now I am going to pass that my reference dot value. So these values I am going to pass. Now let me define it to the component file. So my function name is onSubmit, and it having the form values. I'm going to say forms of imp, and here after clicking on a button, what we are going to do, that we will see it on a next. Okay, so this is what we did. Now this form got created, but when I going to say or like when I'm going to print that value in a console, so console.log you can use, or console.on also you can use this forms if I'm trying to print. Let us check with this, what is it exactly going to be happen. Okay, one more changes that we forget to do is what this input type buttons you have to change. Instead of button, you should have to use input type, and that type equals to what, submit, and this also I have to be removed, and this type also I have to be removed with. Alright, now let me check with this. I'm going to open the console, so that after clicking on a button, what exactly is going to be happen, that we are going to be check out here. So this is the name. Let us say the name I'm going to be enter Suraj Pawar, Suraj @ LeadSoft.academy. Right, now click on submit. So guys can see an array got created, but an empty array got created. If you can expand this one also, we don't have any data right now because we have a controls right there, but we haven't provided all these controls to our form. And to provide these controls to our form, you guys have to write the name attribute for each and every input. So as far as you guys can see, we have 3 inputs right available. So I'm going to provide a name attribute there so that I can able to identify it. So I'm going to say name for this is what, first name. Okay, name for the last name input. Okay, this is what email, I guess. No, this is last name. So let me change it to the last. Okay, this one I'm going to add it the name as first name, and this one I'm going to add it name as email. All right, now let us check whether it could be works or not. So I'm going to refresh. Let us put my data again. So Pawar Suraj at the rate LeadSoft.academy. Now let us click on submit. So guys can see again one more time an empty array got created. What is the reason behind it? As you are taking the form but you are not binding your form controls to your form, and to bind that control you should have to use just ng model without any binding. And to use with this we should have to write written like this ng model, okay, for each and every in controls only, not for the buttons. And as I have 3 input controls, so I'm going to use for 3 right here. Now let me check with this. So I'm going to say Suraj Pawar Suraj at the rate leadsoft.academy. Now click on submit. So you guys can see the form is got created with the attribute first name, and this input text will be got written there, last name with the input text will got written, and email with the input text got written right there. And this is how simple it is to be works with the template driven form. What are the necessary steps that we should have to be followed with? So let me go on through with that all the steps. The very basic important thing that you should have to design a form that we got designed here right in the video. The next step is to add your forms module to your app.module.ts file. Once you added the forms module, then the HTML you can expand your form tag, and to the form tag you can write a reference and put that value as ng form, so that our Angular can understand whatever the forms we got created is a template driven form, and by using the template driven form we can just able to access the value. We cannot able to process the value, even we cannot able to put that value in a template driven form as it's basics in nature. Then next step is to write the ng submit event. ng submit event is the event where once we click on a form, what is going to be happen next, that is going to be shown right there. And to this form we are going to write some method, and we are going to pass all the values of this form. But before passing the values, you should have to write the name property for each input along with ng model. If that is done, then using template driven form in easiest way, you guys can able to access your form's value very easily. And this is how simple it is in Angular. I hope you guys have understood it well. If you guys have liked this video, please give us the thumbs up. Do share, do subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching this video.